Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing and Fabric has what you need for your creative adventure. If it's sewing, embroidery, or vinyl projects you need for a home business, Etsy, Pinterest, and your family, we have it. Mid-South Sewing sells Brothers Sewing and Embroidery machines and the latest scan and cut crafting machine. Mid-South Sewing and Fabric in the Gallery Shopping Center.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by The Flower Pot. For over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery with 2 convenient Knoxville locations. KnoxvilleFlowerPot.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you. Coming up on this edition of Tennessee Life, take a trip down the historic Dixie Highway through one Chattanooga man's camera lens. Walter M Cline's postcards document our state's well-known attractions and small towns.
A lot of people collect just the real photo postcards like Cline made. There's a lot of printed postcards. There are just a dime a dozen. There's just lots and lots of those because they were easy to print, but these were printed, individually by hand. It was a much more laborious process, and they're just more prized because there's fewer of them.
A scenic drive through Tennessee offers hundreds of photo opportunities, as long as there isn't trash on the road. The Highway Beautification Office has launched a new anti-litter effort to clean up this $15 million problem. Who are the biggest litter bugs? The answer may surprise you.
Our number one litter bugs in Tennessee are 16 to 34-year-olds. Even more surprising, we found out that women were slightly more likely to litter than men, and that really surprised us.
And on your next road trip, you might want to visit Dinosaurs. We go inside this Bluff City man's handcrafted backyard creation.
It really wasn't a decision, a conscious decision. When I built the first one, people wanted to stop and take pictures of it. They'd see it coming from the road, and they'd stop and just want a photo. And as they did that, they'd ask me, when are you going to build more of them? Well, I didn't exactly have a plan to build more. I just wanted the one. But as they said that, I thought, well, I could probably do something else.
Those stories next on Tennessee Life.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Tennessee Life. I'm Vicki Lawson. The volunteer state is known for its highways and byways, and these roads are maps of our history. Tennessee's Dixie Highway is one of those crossroads with more than a century of memories. Chattanooga photographer Walter M Cline captured images on these routes and sold them as postcards. We met 2 women who collect Cline's postcards and share with us some of his Dixie Highway journey.
Before the Dixie Highway, the roadways in Tennessee were basically dirt, and impassable at times. When it rained, it was muddy. When it was dry, it was dust, and so it was just a dirt road system. So the Dixie Highway Association started in 1915. There was a push with the Good Roads movement to start building highways north and south. And Carl Fisher, who had been instrumental in the Lincoln Highway, which was a east and west highway, decided to get involved in promoting the Dixie Highway, running initially from Chicago to Miami, and then eventually it went all the way to Canada. There was a big meeting in 1915 of all the governors of all the states that would be affected by the Dixie Highway path, and thousands of people came from all over the South and all over the North, people that wanted to have a voice in where the Dixie Highway was going to be. And so the Dixie Highway Association was formed and headquartered right there in Chattanooga, since it was the midpoint between Chicago and Miami. The Chattanooga Automobile Club were huge proponents of the Dixie Highway, and they promoted it with events and publications. The Dixie Highway Association had a magazine of their own that they promoted the road. Chattanooga did a whole tourism promotion during the 1930s to promote people coming to the South. Walter Cline was a Chattanooga photographer who developed an interest in automobiles, joined the Chattanooga Automobile Club, and because he was a photographer in the area, he was interested in promoting the area. So bringing the Dixie Highway through Chattanooga was a key component of that. He liked to travel too, so knowing that in order to travel easily, getting those highways built was important. Cline developed an interest in photography early in his life, and when he was 17, he taught a friend of his to read in exchange for $10, and he took that $10 and bought his first camera that he had seen advertised in a magazine. Took his very first picture in Cambridge of a snow scene and kept that picture his entire life. He worked for the most part in Ohio, but traveled a little bit doing some jobs in Birmingham, Alabama, and on one of his trips back home to Ohio, he went through Chattanooga and just fell in love with the scenery. Once in Chattanooga, Walter works for E.L. Mudge for a number of years, and then several years later, he buys his photography business and turns it into Cline Studios. I got hooked on Cline and did a lot of research to see what I could find out about him, and there really wasn't anything written about Cline. I started looking into how I could write something, get something published about Cline. Somewhere along the way, I ran across an image of the Dixie Highway, and I thought, well, that's really cool. The Dixie Highway connects all through Tennessee, and it connects Murfreesboro and Chattanooga and Jellicoe, where my sister was from, so that's kind of what got me hooked on thinking about the Dixie Highway.
Rock City was one of the places that sold Cline postcards. He had a thriving business with
He took
them.
hundreds of pictures of Rock City. I can imagine there was some kind of business proposition made between him and Rock City, because in most cases the earliest pictures of Rock City are his. I've never seen anyone else's pictures of Rock City.
They also gave him access to places to take pictures that other photographers didn't have, and that may have been because of his, friendships, business connections.
He took some of the earliest pictures of Ruby Falls. I know there was a photographer from his company, it may have been him, one of the first people to ever see Ruby Falls. Cline did take a lot of pictures in Tennessee. He went to all the different little communities, and he took street scenes. He took pictures of the main buildings in town, the churches, the post offices, those that you find in most of the little towns throughout Tennessee. I think that he had probably a huge interest in documenting what those areas were like. And because he did that, we have historic documentation of every little community in the Tennessee area, or at least middle to East Tennessee for the most part. And, collectors are just crazy about those cards. My collection has every card I can find of Murfreesboro and the city square and all the different churches and the post office, which was an early building that this library system used.
And some of those places aren't accessible anymore. Wonder Cave, which was located at the bottom of Mont Eagle, is no longer accessible to the public. But he has some wonderful pictures of that cave, and so you can visit it now through looking at his postcards. One of my favorite Cline postcards is of a mother opossum and her babies.
It's hard for me to pick a favorite postcard of his, but I'm especially fond of the courthouse pictures that he took here, because we have one of the few remaining antebellum courthouses in the state.
One other postcard that I really loved was of the Tom Thumb golf course. Garnett Carter, who established Rock City with his wife Frida, actually invented the first miniature golf course, and that was Tom Thumb. So we've got a couple of really neat pictures of that.
Probably a dozen or so. Walter Cline developed a numbering system for his postcards, I think just to keep them organized. There's a letter and a number with each one of them. The different letters stand for different locations or general areas, and then he keeps them numbered so that he knows what pictures he took where. 1X49 for this Lookout Mountain card, and all of the Lookout Mountain cards or the Rock City cards would have the 1X and a number after it. It is really helpful for collectors like me, because we can figure out what cards we have and what cards we might be missing because there's a number missing in there. It's just an easy way to keep it organized. Cline postcards are collectible because they're of places that we know, things that we can relate to. Most collectors collect cards from the areas where they either grew up or places that they live now. You know, they love the history of it and they just want to preserve it. I think people got fascinated with postcards because they started to travel and they wanted mementos from where they went, and to be able to send those home to the people that, you know, didn't make the trip. People started to collect them. Even if they didn't travel, they collected postcards, depending on the images. A lot of people collect just the real photo postcards like Cline made because the quality of those images. There's a lot of printed postcards that are just a dime a dozen. There's just lots and lots of those because they were easy to print, but these were printed, you know, individually by hand, and you know, it was a much more laborious process, and they're just more prized because there's fewer of them. Cline's postcards cover the area from the 1930s through the 1950s, and they're collected by people, individuals, they're collected by historical societies, libraries, anyone who has an interest in preserving the history that he was able to document. His cards show what a great place Tennessee was and is.
Later on Tennessee Life, take a walk with the dinosaurs in Bluff City. But next, how one group wants to make sure nobody trashes Tennessee.
In a state as scenic as Tennessee, you don't have to drive far to see postcard-worthy beauty. A lot of effort and research goes into keeping our highways free of Tennessee trash. I spoke with Sean Bible from the Department of Transportation about the state's newest efforts to keep litter off the road.
I guess I've been involved in litter prevention for 28 years. I'm kind of the litter lady. I've been doing this for a long time.
So you've seen many campaigns.
I've seen many, many campaigns. We've had a lot of popular previous campaigns. Our 70s campaign, Tennessee Trash. All kinds of folks love and remember that campaign and can sing. If you're a certain age, you can sing that jingle.
The highways, Tennessee trash, jumping up the byways. Lord, there ain't no lower class than Tennessee trash.
And our new campaign is just sort of a springboard from that. We wanted a modern version and a modern look and a way to reach our #1 litter bugs.
When was the last time that Tennessee launched an anti-litter campaign?
We had a new campaign 10 years ago, and we really felt like it was time for something new. We didn't want to bring back that exact campaign. To me, it was of the 70s, but we wanted to springboard from that to a modern version. And we sort of think of our modern version as sort of a litter karma. Litter comes back to you if you litter.
Every year, it costs Tennessee more than $15 million to clean up roadside litter. It's time to keep your trash to yourself and our roadways clear, because nobody trashes Tennessee.
Can you tell me a little bit about the research that went into creating this campaign?
We came up with the Nobody Trashes Tennessee campaign because the research showed people were so proud of our beautiful state, and we wanted to have a campaign and a slogan that supported that pride in Tennessee. We're proud of our beautiful roads, our beautiful state, and nobody trashes Tennessee. We did internet and phone interviews. We did extensive, very scientific company, measured litter and looked at litter on every kind of road in Tennessee. And then we called in focus groups of this litter bug age group. They were all 16 to 34, men group and women groups, and we talked to folks about litter, and we had scientifically organized questions, and it was amazing. I felt like we really got the straight scoop from folks about how they feel about litter and why they litter.
You have done research on who litters. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So we found out that our #1 litter bugs in Tennessee are 16 to 34-year-olds. Even more surprising, we found out that women were slightly more likely to litter than men, and that really surprised us.
Why do you think that's so, that women would litter more than men?
They do not want dirty cars. They're in their cars, they're driving to work, they're driving for work, they're driving children, their cars are dirty, they want that litter out of their car and they push it out of their car. Men don't care if their truck or their car is dirty, and so they leave it in. So we're going to have a lot of this campaign geared toward women and getting that message across to women that nobody trashes Tennessee and we don't want that litter on our roads.
So us ladies don't need to be sticking together and become the top litter bugs, do we?
Absolutely.
From this focus group and from these campaigns, do you think a lot of folks, a lot of Tennesseans, are surprised about the amount of litter on our roads?
I think they're extremely surprised. I think they're really surprised about the high cost of getting it off the road. Our studies revealed that if they had that info, it would keep them from littering.
It's just something that's not at the top of our priority list when we get in our cars daily.
Right, and people are in a hurry. They're trying to avoid traffic and get to their destination, and they might not think about it, but they are proud of Tennessee and don't want to see it littered and don't want to see this trash on the road.
How big a problem is littering in Tennessee?
Littering is a $15 million problem for TDOT in Tennessee, even more than that for other folks in the state.
What does that $15 million price tag include?
It includes outreach education. We don't want to just pick up litter. We want to educate folks not to litter. We spend a lot of it on pickup. We spend a lot of it on education. We have grants that we distribute to every county in Tennessee. So Knox County gets litter funds to pick up litter along our roadsides and to educate children and adults about not littering.
In your memory, what is the most unusual thing you think you found in litter that's...
Gosh, every kind of piece of a car, every kind of yardstick. Some of the things are so yucky I don't want to say, but we do. Being in litter, we don't want to just talk about litter. We have an Adopt a Highway in my office. We go out and we pick up litter so we can really be there where the litter meets the road, so to speak. And we find money. We find every kind of crazy thing.
Do these campaigns actually make a difference?
They do, and our research showed that it did. These women and people that said they had littered said that I saw on their faces in the focus groups that they were flabbergasted at the cost. We had them guess how much it cost to pick up litter, and they guessed so incredibly low. They just didn't have any concept of the cost and of the amount of litter. And they all said, oh, if I'd known it was that big a problem, I wouldn't have been doing that. So we really think we have the right message, and it will have results and will make a difference.
What do you use to measure and count litter?
We use statistical surveys, photographs, and actual people on the road. We spent more than a month with people on the road taking photographs and counting litter and seeing what was around the litter. We had an awful lot of litter around hardware stores. I can't explain why that is, but we counted and looked that carefully. We looked at the area, the type of road, we counted pieces, the items on the road, brands, everything.
And I think statistics stand out in the mind of the citizens when they look and say, oh, I had no clue.
Right.
We have such a beautiful state. Let's all make an effort not to trash Tennessee, right?
Right, because nobody trashes Tennessee.
Sean Bible, thank you for being with us today and sharing your Trash Lady story.
Thank you.
You just never know what you might come across on a road trip in East Tennessee. One Bluff City man's homemade backyard attraction is well worth the stop. Here's a look inside Backyard Terror's Dinosaur Park.
They're usually just amazed that one person did all this. Backyard Terror's Dinosaur Park is located in Tennessee, Bluff City. It's in the northeast area. We're not too far from Bristol Motor Speedway. I'm just an independent artist, and really if there's anything somebody needs, I come up with it, I make it, or I customize something that already exists. It just depends on what they're after. My mom was really creative, and she kind of inspired us. You know, she made all of our Halloween costumes, and she would make a volcano with us just for the fun of it to do it. Helps us in the creek, building the dam, that kind of thing. So that kind of inspired me to play with my toys a little more rougher than others. That was kind of thing, you know, and even at school, I ran around the playground in elementary school as a dinosaur. I had my 2 T-Rex claws and I'd chase the other kids around and stuff like that. And, you know, that was my thing. All the other ones were into sports and G.I. Joe and stuff like that, and I was all going after them. I've just been a dinosaur nut since I was about 5 years old. I always wanted a life-size dinosaur. You know, you collect toys and models and stuff like that, but somewhere you want to see an actual full-size, life-size dinosaur somewhere. And I got to looking at them, and I started saving for one, and the price was just it's like astronomical how much that thing cost. So I got the idea one day of maybe I could build one. And I started picking up wire and foam, and being an artist already in 2D, I started playing with the 3D stuff, just sculpting. And 6 months later, I sort of developed a life-size dinosaur. The first one we built was our Jurassic Park looking Velociraptor. I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan, really am still one. So I wanted one that, I figured it was within my scale, something I could build around 6 feet tall, 13 feet long roughly. Something I could manage. It was still big for a dinosaur. It really wasn't a decision, a conscious decision. When I built the first one, people wanted to stop and take pictures of it. They'd see it coming from the road, and they'd stop and just want a photo. And as they did that, they'd ask me, you know, when are you going to build more of them? Well, I didn't exactly have a plan to build more. I just wanted the one. But as they said that, I thought, well, I could probably do something else. And from that one, I built another. I added a gift shop. Everything here is built on donations. And it all just started with that one dinosaur and people coming to check it out. As a park, it's been about 4 or 5 years now since we opened, around 2014, somewhere around there. Some of the dinosaurs that you'll encounter when you're here, we have all the main favorite ones. We have life-size T-Rex. He's 47 feet long. Our Apatosaurus is our largest one at 67 feet. She's also known as Brontosaurus. We've got your Stegosaurus with giant Triceratops. You know, you'll really see how big he is when you get here. But then we've got some more obscure species. We're going to have Spinosaurus, Ceratosaurus. These are all ones that you may have heard of as a kid in a book, or they've just been newly discovered. My favorite one is Big Al. He's our really big Allosaurus at the beginning, and I've loved Allosaurus since I was a kid. To me, you know, he had 3 fingers and longer arms than a T-Rex, so he was better. That was my whole deal with Allosaurus. He just looked cool with his little horns above his eyes too. It was kind of neat. I have a really big collection of stuff. It's almost an obsession what I have. I mean, I have posters, books, models, statues, everything. Real fossils, just tons of stuff that I've picked up ever since I was little. And I never got rid of anything. I just kept, it just kept going. It all inspires me too. The models we build here, the life-size ones, I use them for reference material, and that helps out. So my collection isn't just totally sitting gathering dust. It does get pieced out and used and stuff in the park. And at some point, hopefully we'll build a museum or something out of that so other kids can see these are the toys that you used to be able to play with and stuff. And that's the fun you can still have with something like that. The price of admission, there is no price of admission. It's just totally free. Today, you take a family of 4 to a movie. It's like $100 once you buy popcorn, drinks, and tickets. But you can come here, give us $10, and you can explore our entire park, spend 2 or 3 hours. If I can help it, we'll never charge an admission price here. That's my goal, is to not provide something like this free where no one has to pay anything for it. My family didn't have much money. Our family vacations were more about hanging out in antique shops, a little bit of putt-putt here and there, and doing small roadside attractions. That was the things that were free, or $1 or $2, stuff you could afford. And that was the things I remembered. And I want kids to be able to do the same thing that I did then as now. Most of the time I'm working on more than one at once, so I have several in different stages. I can accomplish 4 that are about 16 feet within 2 months. The larger ones, like our T-Rex and Apatosaurus, those are all about 6 months. It's a long process. Usually I start anywhere from a year or more to planning one. It can be a rough concept, like just having a model that's accurate enough that I can scale up to draw from. I have to find skeletal information. You know, a good side view works. You can see what looks from the side. but finding top views and bottom views, front and back, so you can see the width and the height that you need, that's harder to find with more obscure species. It's fun. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. I mean, even when I'm not interacting with the public, I'm sitting down here in the shop building something, and I'll hear kids go through the park. I'll hear, "Mom, it's the T-Rex," you know? You can know these kids are having a ball running through here and enjoying themselves, and their parents, some of the parents get in on it. You'll hear them talking to their kids, and they're communicating and working with each other, and it's just fun seeing people do this. Without people, this place wouldn't mean anything. I mean, it's cool, I like dinosaurs, but without the people enjoying it, it's worthless. There's nothing in it at all. I could build a dinosaur still, but what would be the point? I would just enjoy it myself and no one else would get to see it. That doesn't make me happy. This makes me happy, hearing people enjoying the same thing I'm enjoying.
We hope you can get out and enjoy a Tennessee road trip soon. I'm Vicki Lawson. We'll see you on the next Tennessee Life.
Tennessee Life is sponsored by
Mid-South Sewing and Fabric has what you need for your creative adventure. If it's sewing, embroidery, or vinyl projects you need for a home business, Etsy, Pinterest, and your family, we have it. Mid-South Sewing sells Brothers Sewing and Embroidery machines and the latest scan and cut crafting machine. Mid-South Sewing and Fabric in the Gallery Shopping Center.
Tennessee Life is also brought to you by The Flower Pot, for over 100 years, offering flowers and same-day delivery. And by viewers like you. Thank you.